The DNA test that solved a murder and created one. The interrogation room looked exactly like the ones he'd seen in movies. Grey walls, metal table, a two-way mirror reflecting his exhausted face back at him like a tired ghost. He'd been here for 11 hours. The FBI agent slid a photograph across the table. A young woman, blonde, smiling at the camera. Pretty. Alive, in the photograph at least. Murdered August 14th, 1994. Your DNA was found inside her body. The man stared at the photo, feeling his stomach turn. I was 5 years old. 5. I don't understand how. Neither do we. That's why you're still here instead of county lockup. The agent pulled out another document, a DNA analysis report, dense with numbers the man didn't understand. Your DNA is a 99.9% match to semen found at the scene. That's conclusive. That's courtroom conviction conclusive. Then test me again. There's a mistake. We did. 3 times. Cheek swab, blood sample, hair follicle, all match. The man's hands shook. I was in kindergarten. I was in Seattle. I've never even been to that city. Check school records. Check. The door opened. Another agent entered, spoke urgently. The agent's expression shifted from stern to shocked. Sir, she said slowly, turning back to him, do you have any siblings, brothers or sisters? No, I'm an only child. My parents adopted me from South Korea when I was 2 months old. Are you certain about that? Of course I'm. What does that have to do with... The agent turned her laptop toward him. The screen showed a document in Korean, partially translated. Adoption records from a children's home, 1987. 2 names listed on the same birth registration. Twins. Identical twin boys. Separated at birth. The man stared at the names. One was his old Korean name, the name he'd had before his parents renamed him. Sir, the agent said quietly, your DNA is a perfect match for the crime scene because identical twins share identical DNA. You didn't murder that young woman. The man should have felt relief. Instead, ice filled his veins. But your brother did. The world slowed around him. Brother. For 11 hours, FBI agents had talked to him about murder, about DNA matches, about crime scenes, but no one had mentioned a brother. Because no one knew he had a brother. He didn't even know. Where? He whispered. Where is he? The agent looked back at the document. According to records, he was adopted by a different family the same year. Different state, different name. Is he alive? We don't know. We lost track of him. But the Dark Case Files team will find him, and when we do, we'll learn the truth about this murder. But the real question hadn't been asked yet. The FBI agent opened another file. Inside was a plastic bag. DNA report. Detailed, scientific, definitive. Here's the real problem, the agent said. At the scene, it's not just his DNA, it's both of your DNA. The man froze. What do you mean? On the victim's body, on her clothes, in her hair, we found 2 different DNA sources, both with the same genetic profile. Twin DNA, which means that night, it wasn't just your brother there. The room spun. The man grabbed the table. No, I was 5 years old, I told you. You weren't 5 in August 1994. You were 11. What? No, I was born in 1987. I'm your card. The agent pulled out another document. Birth certificate. South Korean Ministry of Health logo. You were born in 1983. Your and your brother's birth records were either misprocessed or deliberately altered. The adoption agency listed you as younger babies are easier to place, but your real age was different. The man shook his head. That's impossible. My mum and dad, they would have known. The adoption documents were falsified. Years later, no one checks, but the FBI lab ran bone age testing. You have old X-ray records from 1995. Dental structure, growth plates, skeletal maturity, all indicate a 1983 birth. So the man's voice broke. I was 11 years old, that night. I was there, yes, and identical twins have indistinguishable DNA. which means right now we have two suspects, you and your brother. Either of you could have killed that young woman. David Harrington, the leader of the Dark Case Files team, had been standing quietly in the corner of the interrogation room, listening. Now he stepped forward, his voice calm but determined. "What the FBI is doing is standard procedure," he said, "but we're going to take a different approach, because two DNA samples means two different stories. One killed, the other witnessed, or both experienced that night in different ways." The man looked at David. "Who are you?" "David Harrington. I specialize in cold cases, and yours is one of the most complex cold cases I've encountered, because there are two separate truths, genetic truth and remembered truth. Both are keeping you in this room." David placed a folder on the table. "Now I'm going to ask you a question, and you can think about it as long as you need. Do you remember the summer of 1994? The man thought. "I don't know. From kindergarten, no. Now I was 11, so elementary school? Middle school? I don't remember. Can you imagine if you went to summer camp?" "Summer camp." The man rubbed his forehead. "My family, I think they sent me somewhere one summer, but I don't remember. Why don't I remember? Why don't I remember?" David's expression softened. "Because your brain is protecting you from that summer. It's called traumatic memory suppression. But you need to remember now, because that summer was the summer you met your brother." 3 days later, Sam Reeves, the Dark Case Files team's digital forensic specialist, sat in the Seattle Police Department's computer room, 3 monitors in front of her, having spent 12 hours scanning summer camp records from "Here," she said, pointing at the screen, "Olympic Coast Camp, June through August 1994. The participant list has 2 children, both 11 years old, both matching similar descriptions." David leaned over the monitor. "Names, different, but physical characteristics are nearly identical. Height, weight, hair color, eye color, and most importantly, Sam opened another file, both assigned to the same cabin number. Cabin 4. Camps usually put siblings in the same cabin, David noted, but these two didn't know they were siblings, and camp administration didn't know either. Both were registered by different families, different last names, but both from the states where they were adopted, both Korean heritage, both the same age. Staff probably put them in the same cabin because they had similar profiles. David leaned back. So for 3 months, these 2 children shared the same room and unknowingly discovered they were each other's twin. Even more interesting, Sam opened another folder, camp photographs, digitized archives. A group photo appeared on the screen. 15 children, all smiling, a counselor in front. A young woman, blonde, early 20s. They read the label, Cabin 14 with counselor, and there, on the left side of the photo, standing side by side, were 2 children. Same face, same smile, same posture. David's breath caught. There they are. There are the brothers. Sam zoomed in on the screen. "And this," she said, pointing at the counselor, "matches the victim photo the FBI has." Silence fell. In that photograph in July 1994, on a summer day, 3 people smiled together, the young woman counselor and 2 twin children. A month later, the young woman would be found dead, and one of these 2 children would have killed her. "Is there anything in the camp records about the night of the incident?" David asked. Sam scanned through files. August 14th. Camp incident report. At 2:30 a.m., a counselor didn't return. At 6 a.m., a search team was formed. At 8:15 a.m., a body was found in the wooded area behind the parking lot. Police were called. Camp was shut down. All children were sent home to their families. Any child statements? Minimal. In the police report, most weren't considered witnesses due to age. But Sam stopped. "There's a note." A detective noted that 2 children were acting strange. They weren't speaking, just looking at each other, like identical twins. Names recorded in the report. Both left with their families after camp closure, never saw each other again. David took a deep breath. For 30 years, no one remembered that night. Or they didn't want to remember. Now we need to force them to remember. Marcus Chen was the Dark Case Files team's criminal psychology specialist. Now he sat across from the suspect, the man in a quiet therapist's office, David Harrington beside them taking notes. "I'm not going to hypnotize you," Marcus said, "but we will do memory recall exercises. Your brain is protecting that night because it was painful, but you need to remember." The man nodded. He'd been in FBI custody for 3 days, then released, passport confiscated, under city limits restriction. Technically a suspect, but the evidence wasn't enough. Yet, "Close your eyes," Marcus said gently. "Go to the summer of 1994. You're 11 years old. Your family is sending you somewhere where—" The man breathed. "To camp. I didn't want to go, but Mum and Dad insisted. In the car, long drive, mountains, pine trees. When you arrived at camp, what happened?" "Cabin. Number 14. I went inside. Another kid was there, picking a bunk bed." "Can you describe that child?" The man paused, eyes still closed, forehead sweaty. "He's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, like looking in a mirror. Same face, same hair. Everyone thinks we're brothers, but I tell them no, I don't have a brother. He says the same thing, but we both feel strange, familiar." "What was his name?" Long silence. The man's face tensed, trying to remember. Then he whispered, "I don't know. I can't remember. But he was always with me. 3 months. My best friend. We did everything together." Marcus leaned forward. "Let's go to August. The last week of camp. One night something happened. Do you remember that night?" The man's breathing quickened. No, I don't remember." "There was a counselor, a young woman. Her name—" "No." The man's eyes flew open, gasping. "I don't want to remember." David leaned forward. "You have to remember, because that night, you and your brother were with that counselor. Your DNA was there. Both of you." The man shook his head. "I didn't do it. I wouldn't." "Who did?" Marcus asked softly. "You or your brother?" Silence. Then the man's eyes began to water. "I don't know. God, I don't know. But I remember things, flashes, blood, screaming, and then nothing. A blank. I've been living with that blank for 30 years. Marcus leaned back. "Traumatic amnesia. Your brain erased that night because it was too painful to bear. But if David's team can find your brother, maybe his memories can unlock yours. What if he doesn't remember either?" "Then," David said, "DNA truth is the only truth left, and we both know DNA doesn't lie." Elena Cortez was the Dark Case Files team's investigative journalist, and now she was in South Korea, in Gwangju City, following adoption records. While Sam Reeves tracked digital traces, Elena pursued physical records, old files, paper trails, forgotten truths. The Gwangju Children's Home no longer existed. It had closed in 2003 after scandals, but records had been transferred to government archives. Elena spent a week fighting bureaucratic barriers, finally gaining access to the archive room with a Korean-speaking translator. The files were dusty, yellowed, carrying the smell of 1980s paper. Elena searched for 1987, February, twin births, and finally she found it. Original birth certificate. 2 babies born on the same date. But the interesting thing on the certificate was a third note. Written in red ink, Korean, the translator read, "Twins should be adopted separately, per family request, past issue." "What issue?" Elena asked. The translator shrugged. "Not clear, but adoption agencies sometimes separated twins. There were families who wanted single children, or it was believed that twins growing up together could lead to psychological problems. But here it says family request. Which family?" The translator flipped through more pages, then stopped. "Here, biological mother records." Elena moved closer. A woman's name was written on the document. Korean name, and below a note, "Maternal surrender. Babies relinquished. Reason, personal crisis, financial situation, social stigma." Standard stuff. But then another note. Mother made special request. Baby with specific characteristics to be adopted separately. What characteristics? Elena asked. Doesn't say. But the translator looked at another page. This is interesting. 2 different adoption files. One American family, Seattle. Another American family, different city. But in the second file there's a note. Special arrangement. Expedited process. Elena took photos. Everything. Birth certificates. Adoption documents. Notes. Then she pulled out her phone, called David. I found something, she said. The biological mother deliberately separated the twins. I don't know why, but it looks like a conscious choice from here. David's voice came through the line. Maybe one of the twins was troubled. Maybe the mother knew. Or, Elena said, she was protecting one from the other, like she wanted to keep one of the twins away from danger. Sam Reeves's digital research paid off. The brother had been found, or rather, hadn't been found, because the brother didn't exist, at least not legally. Name change, Sam explained at the team meeting. In 1999, when he was 15, left his adoptive family's surname, took a different name, then in 2005, completely disappeared. Social Security number is active, but not in use. No tax records, no bank accounts, no credit cards. Off-grid, David asked. Or abroad. Or dead, but not recorded. Marcus Chen leaned forward. Why would you change your name at 15? That's a trauma marker. Escaping identity. Or escaping crime, David added. In 1994, he was 11. The murder happened. In 1999, when he was 15, he changed his name. 5 years later. Maybe guilt. Maybe fear. Maybe something else. Elena took notes. We need to find his adoptive family. If they're still alive, they'll know where he is. Sam brought up an address on her screen. Here, Washington State. Still living at the same address. But she stopped. Something's odd. In post-adoption records there are family counseling notes. Mentions the child had behavioral issues. Marcus looked at the screen. What kind of behavioral issues? Aggression, lack of empathy, animal abuse incidents. Classic early-onset psychopathy indicators. The room went silent. David took a deep breath. So the biological mother was right. One of the twins was troubled, and that child was the one who killed the young woman. But we still have 2 DNA samples, Sam reminded, so the man was there too. Witness, accomplice, or, Marcus said, victim. Maybe his brother manipulated him. An 11-year-old child doesn't understand what something like that means at that age. Maybe his brother messed things up. The man came later, experienced trauma, and suppressed everything. David stood. We need to talk to the adoptive family. Right now. 2 days later, David Harrington and Elena Cortez stood at the door of a small suburban house in Washington State. The outside was well-maintained but cold curtains drawn, driveway empty, neighbors distant. An elderly woman opened the door. 60s, frail, deep exhaustion in her eyes. The adoptive mother. FBI. The woman looked at David's badge. No. We're independent investigators. Dark case files. We want to talk about your adopted son. The woman's face tensed. I don't have a son. Not anymore. We know he changed his name, but where he is, that's not what I mean. The woman opened the door wider. Come in. The interior was cold and dark. The woman led them to the living room. Photos on the walls, family photos, but one face was missing. There were no photos of the child. When did you last see your son? Elena asked gently. The woman sat, her hands trembling. 2007. When he was 16, he left home, never came back. Why did he leave? The woman closed her eyes. Because it was dangerous to keep him home. He'd attacked my husband with a knife. Almost killed him. We called police. They did psychiatric evaluation. Diagnosed antisocial personality disorder. He threatened us. If you lock me up, when I get out, I'll kill you both. David leaned forward. What happened in 1994? At summer camp. The woman began to cry. We didn't know. When the camp called us, they just said there was an accident. The counselor died. Children were in shock. We picked up our son, brought him home. That night he screamed in his dreams. For weeks he didn't speak. Did he tell you what happened? No. But he told his psychiatrist. Years later, I read the files. In therapy, he said, something broke, and it can't be fixed. Elena asked softly, did your son kill that counselor? The woman nodded. I don't know, but I have a feeling. Yes, yes, he did. And that other child, the twin, witnessed it. Other child. David stopped. You knew about the twin? The woman nodded. The adoption agency didn't tell us. But when he was 15, my son told me, I have a twin, he said, and one day I'll find him, because he got to live on the good side, and I lived on the bad side. The man was home in Seattle, but couldn't sleep. At midnight, his phone rang. David Harrington. We found your brother, David said, or rather, we know where he might be, and he's coming to talk to you. The man's heart raced. What? 4 days ago, he heard your story. On social media, news, your name was released, and he contacted us. He wants to confront you. Confront. Yes. Tomorrow afternoon, neutral location, public place. Police will be ready, but he wants to talk to you. His twin, after all these years. The next day, at a cafe in downtown Seattle, the man waited. David was beside him, Elena and Marcus at a nearby table, police in unmarked cars outside. And then the brother entered. The man's breath caught the moment he saw him. It was like looking in a mirror. Same face, same build, but different. The eyes were cold, no smile, movement more rigid, more calculated. The brother sat at the table. For a long time they just looked at each other without speaking. Two faces, genetically identical, but souls so different. Do you remember me? The brother finally asked. The man nodded quietly. No, I mean, pieces, flashes, camp, you, but not clear. I remember, the brother said. Everything. That night. The counselor. What happened? What I did. The man's hand trembled. What did you do? The brother leaned back. Are the police coming? David intervened. Is this a confession? An explanation, the brother said. Because I've been carrying this for 30 years. And you, he looked at the man, you've been carrying it too, but don't know. It's time I told you the truth. The man swallowed. Tell me, that night we snuck out of the cabin, you and me. It was late, we were excited, we were kids. We went behind the parking lot, and we found the counselor there. But she wasn't alone. She was with a man, something romantic. She saw us, got angry. What are you doing here? She yelled. The man ran. The counselor came toward us. I'm calling your parents, she said. You'll be punished. The brother paused, breathed. You started crying. You were scared. Mom and Dad would be so angry. And I was angry, a childish anger. And I pushed her. Just a push. But she lost her balance, hit her head, on a rock. There was blood. The man's eyes filled with tears. And then you wanted to call for help. You were screaming. We have to do something. I was frozen. 11 years old watching someone die because of me. But she wasn't dead yet. She was gasping, bleeding, and I did nothing. DNA, David cut in. Both of your DNA was there. Because we were both there. We panicked. We touched her, checked if she was dead. Our hands got on her clothes, her hair. Then we ran, back to the cabin, pretended nothing happened. The next day when they found the body, we all acted shocked. The man shook his head. I was just a witness? Yes. And 20 minutes later, you forgot everything. Your brain protected you, but mine didn't. I remembered every day, and it changed me. Marcus Chen leaned forward. Do you feel remorse? The brother looked at him. No, because that night I learned life is fragile, and some people deserve to break. I stayed on the unbroken side. She died, and the world kept turning. Everyone in the cafe froze. Was this a confession? A psychopathic explanation? David's hand was on his phone, waiting for the police signal. But the brother stood. Tell the police this isn't a confession, because they can't prove it. Our DNA is the same. You can't tell which of us pushed her. Maybe you pushed her. He looked at the man, and I protected you. Maybe I'm the liar. Maybe you're the killer. Stop. David jumped up. You can't run. I'm not running. The brother laughed. I'm just telling the truth. Your justice can't distinguish our DNA. One twin is guilty, one innocent. But which one? You'll never know. And he walked out. Police intervened, stopped him, took him into custody. But the brother was right, he'd confessed. But it was an unprovable confession. 2 men, 2 DNA samples, 1 crime. 3 months later, in the courtroom, 2 brothers sat side by side. The prosecutor faced a dilemma. Couldn't charge both, because only one was guilty. But which one? David Harrington sat in the witness stand. As the Dark Case Files team, we gathered all evidence, he said. Biological mother records, childhood therapist notes, behavioral assessments, and we reached a truth. The judge asked which brother is guilty. David looked at the brother. Him. Because his psychiatric history, violence tendency, lack of empathy, all show a 30-year pattern. The man lived his life clean, no trouble. Forgot because an innocent conscience allowed him to forget. But the defense attorney objected. Psychological profile isn't evidence. DNA matches. Both were there. Both are suspects. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Finally, the decision. Insufficient evidence. The brother was released. The man was released. Both guilty or both innocent. The system couldn't distinguish. Outside the courthouse, David and the man stood side by side. The man was crying. You're free, David said. But so is my brother. If he really killed her, he wasn't tried. David put his hand on the man's shoulder. Sometimes justice isn't clear. Sometimes truth lives in consciences. You're innocent, and knowing that is enough. The man walked away, disappeared into Seattle streets. As David watched him, he thought, 2 twins, 1 murder, 1 truth. But which truth? This was one of the rare cases Dark Case Files couldn't solve, because sometimes science itself is limited, and sometimes justice is indistinguishable from injustice. This case demonstrates the limits of genetic justice. 2 identical twins, same DNA, but different fates. One is a killer, one a witness. The system can't distinguish between them, and this is modern justice's greatest tragedy. The Dark Case Files team always seeks the truth, but sometimes truth, even when found, can't be proven. Thank you for watching this story. See you in the next case.